Another manifestation of this was at the end of the time of the companions, at the beginning, the Tabi'een, when these men came along, Al-Ja'ad bin Dirham, Al-Jahm bin Safwan, and they came along. And how did it begin? It began by them arguing with the various nations, arguing with the Jews, arguing with the Christians, arguing with the Sabi'ah, right, the star worshippers, right? And all of these people, before Islam came, they had already been affected by philosophy and kalam and things like that, and that's how their religion was distorted and was altered, right? So what occurred to them, then it entered into Islam by way of these types of individuals, right? By way of jadal, al-jidal, al-bid'i, this innovative type of argumentation. So they would go to a Yahudi, Nasrani, and argue about these issues, about an atheist as well, and try to prove Allah's existence. So what happened with Jahm bin Safwan is that basically he argued with a number of people. One group of them was some Indian philosophers like Buddhists, and they were philosophers, and they basically said to him, let's argue. If we win, you will follow our religion, and if you win, we'll follow your religion. So they said to him, this God or this creator of yours, and obviously these Buddhists don't believe in a creator, right? They just believe in the soul is eternal, the soul moves from person to person, whatever else. So they said to him, you believe you have a God. Have you seen him? Have you heard him? Have you felt him? Have you smelt him? Have you tasted him? Right? Have any of your senses perceived this God of yours? And Jahm said no. So they said, well, what kind of God is this then? What kind of God is this? You can't see your God, you can't touch your God, you can't whatever. So he became confused. So he thought, hang on, what am I worshipping? What am I worshipping? Obviously the argument is in a lot more detail than this, but we kind of have to summarize the essentials of what was really taking place. So these philosophers, they played a trick on Jahm bin Safwan, because they made him wrongly believe in the course of argumentation that the only things which are true are the things that you can perceive with your senses. This is the same trick that the atheists play on people today, right? That the only thing is true, the only thing which is true are the things that we can directly perceive and feel with the senses, which is measurable, investigable, put under next, this is false, this is not true. But those people, they played this trick on Jahm to make him believe that this principle is correct, even though themselves didn't believe it. So then he got confused. And then he went back, he started reflecting and thinking and scratching his head and sitting in his house and whatever else. And then he thought about the Christians, and he realized that the Christians, what they believe is that Allah comes as a soul, and as a soul he enters into a person like Isa alayhi salam, and then he commands and he prohibits. So then he reveals his commands by way of entering into a person. So he thought, okay, this sounds like a good answer for me to give to those atheist philosophers. So then he went back, and so he reversed the argument against them. So he said, right, now you tell me, do you believe you have a soul? And they said, yes, we have a soul. Yes, we believe in a soul. So he said, have you seen this soul? Have you seen this soul? They said, no. So have you heard this soul that you believe is in you? They said, we haven't seen it, we haven't heard it. Have you touched it? Have you tasted it? Have you smelt it? Have you? And they said no. So basically he's reversing the same argument back upon them. And so when they are unable to answer, he says, see, my God, my Lord, is the same as what you believe about your soul. Right? This soul that you believe in exists. It's inside of you. But you cannot hear it, see it, feel it, touch it, taste it. Likewise is my Lord. My Lord is everywhere and in everything, but he cannot be seen. Right? We cannot say he's in one place exclusive to another. We cannot point to him. He's everywhere. So look at this misguidance. Just to win the argument, he invented this falsehood. Right? This is one angle that Imam Ahmad mentions in his book Ar-Raddu ala Zanadiqa wal Jahmiyyah, And so then he went to the Quran and he found 3 verses in the Quran. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ, number 1. Another verse he said, وَهُوَ اللَّهُ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَفِي الْأَرْضِ, He is Allah in the heavens and the earth. And the third verse, لَا تُدْرِكُهُ الْأَبْصَارِ وَهُوَ يُدْرِكُهُ الْأَبْصَارِ. Right, he brought these 3 verses and he constructed the entire religion around these 3 verses based upon that falsehood. There's nothing which is like Allah, meaning that Allah has no attributes. Allah has no attributes. And Allah is the Allah in the heaven and in the earth, meaning that Allah is everywhere. He's Allah in the heaven and Allah in the earth. This is a wrong interpretation. The correct interpretation means Allah is the one who's worshipped by the people of the heaven and He's the one who's worshipped by the people of the earth. It does not mean Allah is in the heaven and in the earth. So he misunderstood the ayah as well. And thirdly, that the visions cannot encompass Him, but He surrounds and encompasses all of the people's visions. So now he used this as a proof to show Allah cannot be seen. So now he denied Allah's ulu, he denied Allah can be seen, and he denied all of Allah's attributes. How did this happen? Went to debate some atheists, jahil, or maybe he even had some knowledge, couldn't argue with them, invented some false argument, corrupt argument, came back, found some verses in the Quran which he misinterpreted, and established an entire religion on the back of which came the Mu'tazila, Kullabiyya, Ash'ariyya, Maturidiyyah, Karramiyya, Salimiyya, and all these people who are waging war against the people of the Sunnah. Look at the result. And who's the Imam in all of this? Who's the Imam? Iblis. This is Iblis. Think about it. When the Messenger of Allah, when he drew that line in the sand, and he drew lines to the left and to the right, and he said, هذه سبل, and at the end of each one is a shaitan. What is shaitan calling to? Is he saying, come over here and drink? Come over here and fornicate? Come over here and deal in use? What is he calling to? What is the best way to misguide the people? What's the best way? Huh? Okay, a bit deeper than this. The answer's in what we've already discussed. Huh? Deeper than this. No. It's to use aql. To inject into people's aql false arguments, false analogies. Because when you start with that foundation, he can leave you in your misguidance. Do you understand? Look at what he put into the mind of Jahm Ibn Safwan. Right? And likewise with every Dhul Khuwaysira. Right? The ruler in that time is the Messenger of Allah. He is not distributing wealth in the right way. He's being unjust. And this is the aql of every single Khariji in every single time. He will look at a ruler has lots of wealth. Why isn't it coming to me? This must be injustice. Right? And then he starts arousing the people. And he destroys the servant and the land by way of this bid'ah. So what did Iblis do? Put the idea. Right? This false aql, this jidal, this argumentation with the falsehood. This is why Ibn Taymiyyah said that Iblis is the imam of every person who uses, this false argument, false reasoning. And this really emphasizes to us the importance of really understanding the Quran and the Sunnah upon the way of the Salaf, in particular in these kind of issues, in the issue of al-qadar, in the issue of al-iman, in the issue of al-asma'i was-sifat, in the issue of Allah's existence and corroborating His existence, right? And all these things, because if we don't have these foundations correct, you are going to be led to tremendous misguidance, great misguidance. So, this is Imam Ahmad in Ar-Radd ala Zanadiq wal Jahmiyyah. And then there's also another story about Al-Jahm and the way he went into misguidance. So, one of the ways that he tried to argue for Allah's existence is, to cut a long story short, I won't go into all the details, In the Quran, Allah Azza wa Jal makes arguments by way of simple truths that all of us can clearly see and understand. For example, in Surah Maryam, Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, أَوَلَمْ يَذْكُرُ الْإِنسَانِ أَنَّا خَلَقْنَاهُ مِنْ قَبْلِ وَلَمْ يَكُ شَيْئًا. Does mankind not remember that we created him before when he was nothing? Right? So 50 years ago, maybe half of the people here, you were nothing. You didn't exist. You were nothing. Nothing of you existed. And then you came to be. Right? Every person knows this, right? We all know this. How do we know this? By way of al-hiss wal-mushahada. Right? Just simple, elementary, basic reasoning. We know this, right? This is how the Quran makes arguments that everybody knows through elementary knowledge. So we go from A to B in the simplest direction like this. Right? This is the way of the Quran. This is the way of the Sunnah. This is the way of the prophets in all of the arguments. The people of Kalam, Falsafa, logic, how do they do it? They'll take you from A, then they'll go, so we go to A to Z like this, right? Straight. From the beginning to the destination, A to Z. The philosopher will go, let me take you from A to B, to C, to D, to E, to F. Let me take you up there, then over there, then here, then here, then here, then here, whatever. And then he'll take you back to your destination, right? It's like if someone says to you, how can I get to Coventry? You say, well, just go on the M6 and just drive down 5-6 miles, you're there. This is, a person of aql will tell you this. And a philosopher will tell you, well, first of all, get onto the so-and-so, then go down here, then go down to Wales and Cardiff, and go around and go to Devon, then go this way, that way, and then go up to, John O'Groats and come back down, and then come here. The philosopher is trying to say something in a long-winded, sophisticated, complicated, ambiguous way that a person of intelligence will tell you just simply like that. That's the difference between the revelation and the way it establishes the foundations of the religion, and the way that the people of Kalam and Falsafa, the way they establish the foundations of the religion. That's the difference, right? The way of the prophets is the argument is dead, it's finished. Argument is finished. Simple. Now you're just a mubtil. With the philosophers and Kalam, they bring these like principles. Oh, how do I know this bottle is, it's muhdath? Oh, because, it's made of atoms, and within the atoms there are a'rad, and the a'rad, they don't exist for 2 seconds, for two, indivisible moments in time, and whatever. And then you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 premises before you even come to the conclusion this is originated. Right? Whereas a child will tell you, oh yeah, this bottle, it came to be after not being. I know this just by looking at it. You understand? That's the difference between what Jahm Ibn Safwan, he used an argument called Huduthul A'rad fil Ajsam. It's all the philosophical nonsense. I won't go into all the details. But basically, he tried to argue the way we know something is created and originated is it because it has attributes. 1 minute it's above, next minute it's below. 1 minute it's hot, next minute it's cold. Right? It has height, width, breadth. That's how I know it is originated. Right? So he argued like this with those philosophers, and they said, actually, you are right. We agree with you. Well done. You are right. And then they said, right now, describe this Lord of yours that you've just proven to us from your book. So when Jahm now goes to the book, the Quran, Ar-Rahmanu ala al-Arsh istawa. Allah ascended above the throne. Allah speaks. Allah shows mercy. Right? Allah has attributes. Allah has actions. Allah becomes angry. Those who disbelieve him, disbelieve in him and displease him. Allah becomes pleased. These are now a'rad. These are now temporary attributes. So when Jahm went back and he looked in the Quran, he thought. So then he basically denied all of the names and attributes right? Because he thought, hang on, I've just proved to these guys that Allah exists. So I've entered them into Islam, right? They believe Allah exists now. Then he's gone to the Quran and found that the Lord he's proven is a Lord who has attributes, who has actions. So which now is what's right and what's wrong? If my argument is wrong, it means Islam is wrong, because then these people won't accept Islam. So therefore, because my argument is correct, therefore the Quran we have to make now ta'weel of all of the ayat, deny all the names, all the attributes, all of the actions, right? Because he used a false argument, and that false argument led to the rejection of Allah's attributes, of His ulu, of His istiwa, of Him being seen in the hereafter, of the Quran being the uncreated speech of Allah. This where all of this came from. And then the Mu'tazila inherited this. Then the Kullabiyya inherited this. Then the Ash'aris. Look at how all this stemmed from this tremendous misguidance.